So sadly, the answer to that was the atomic bomb. So highlight the Manhattan Project, highlight the atomic bomb. On page 397, highlight what the Manhattan Project was. The Manhattan Project was the largest research and scientific effort of its day. During the 1930s, the Germans took an early lead in atomic research, but ironically, their persecution of the Jews and other groups had driven, highlight this, many talented nuclear physicists to refuge in the United States. One of those men was Albert Einstein himself. So highlight in 1939, German-born Jewish physicist Albert Einstein. He wrote a letter to President Roosevelt warning him that the Germans might produce an atomic weapon and that the United States should begin research. Many other scientists, Enrico Fermi fled fascist Italy, Edward Teller was a Jewish emigre from Hungary, and J. Robert Oppenheimer was an American-born Jewish physicist. They all helped in the development of the atomic bomb. So the Germans had lost the atomic bomb for themselves and given it to the United States, basically, by driving out these talented physicists. Highlight that the Americans successfully tested an atomic bomb in the New Mexican desert in July 1945. Highlight, on August 6, 1945, a solitary B-29 flew high in the skies above Hiroshima. This plane was named the Enola Gay, dropped a single atomic bomb. Highlight that it was equivalent in explosive power to 13,000 tons of TNT. Within a few moments after detonation, highlight this, 92,000 Japanese were dead and the city was devastated. Now you might say 92,000 civilians killed. That's horrible. On Okinawa, 100,000 Japanese troops died rather than surrender. They were determined to avoid surrender at all costs, even the cost of their lives and civilian lives. This truly, as tragic as it was, as horrible as it was, it saved millions and millions of lives. There were millions more Japanese people on the island. There were thousands upon thousands of American troops whose lives were saved. And it truly was, it was the only choice. In times of war, often it's impossible to choose to be the nice guy. That's an important thing to understand here. Highlight this, on August 9th, the second atomic bomb was dropped at Nagasaki. This killed 40,000 people. We've got a picture of Hiroshima, Japan, after the bombing in 1945. You can see the devastation there. True tragedy. Next, highlight Japan surrenders. And after the bombing of Nagasaki, the day after, the Soviet Union also declared war on Japan. So, with the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki and Russian entry to the war, the Japanese leaders realized that further resistance was completely futile. So, highlight August 10th. And on this date, they asked if acceptance of the Potsdam Declaration would mean the forceful abdication of Emperor Hirohito. When the Allies replied that the future of Japan's ruler was in the hands of the Japanese people, the Japanese government accepted the Potsdam Declaration, and Emperor Hirohito told the Japanese by radio that they had lost the war. So it was pretty generous terms there. They wanted complete and total surrender, but they weren't being cruel about it. They weren't forcing the abdication of the emperor, and by telling the people, he's in your hands, you can decide if you still want him to lead you or not. That really went a long ways in securing peace here. So highlight VJ Day, and highlight the date for that, September 2nd, 1945. Highlight the VJ Day was Victory in Japan Day, and highlight the Japanese surrendered aboard the American battleship USS Missouri. Highlight that General MacArthur became the military governor of Japan. And we've got a picture up the top of the page. That's General MacArthur standing there, and the Japanese envoy signing the surrender terms. on the USS Missouri. All right, turning the page. So General MacArthur was now the military governor. American troops moved to occupy Japan and other areas. This long war in Asia, it had lasted close to 15 years. It began in Manchuria in 1931 and lasted until 1945. MacArthur spoke to the American people. Today, the guns are silent. A great tragedy has ended. A great victory has been won. A new era is upon us. Victory itself brings with it a profound concern, both for our future security and for the survival of civilization. Men since the beginning of time have sought peace. Military alliances, balances of power, leagues of nations, all in turn failed, leaving the only path to be by the way of the crucible of war. So he acknowledges the destructiveness of war, and he said, we have had our last chance. If we do not devise some greater and more equitable system, Armageddon will be at our door. The problem basically is theological and involves a spiritual recrudescence. That means rebirth. So he was acknowledging there, as a military leader, that the problem is in the hearts of the people, that there needs to be a theological and a spiritual rebirth, a change in the people in order to avoid this type of war again. So we'll stop there for today, and we'll talk about the aftermath of war tomorrow. Let me know if you have any questions, and have a great rest of your day.